so free. Mother Russia in my cup, and my glass is fogging up. Oh yeah, hey dog, hey what's up? Oh yeah, hey dog, hey what's up? When the sweaty walls
You
are
are now
banging,
tuned
I
into
don't fuck
2am
with family
radio.
planning. Make it rain, girl, make it rain. 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 Make it rain, girl, make it rain.
Let's do it. Welcome everyone to 2 a.m. Radio. My name is Rodeo Burrito, the Blue Space Cowboy, and today we are joined by the creator of worlds, the traveler of dimensions, the ultra talented artist Fesq. I usually have a really long-winded introduction, but I am so excited. I just want to jump into it. How are you, man?
I'm doing fine, buddy. Doing fine. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for being on the show, man. It means a lot. So, first question, man. Do you believe in magic?
Oh shit, that's yeah, that's a pretty good question to start with. I don't know, but I'm pretty skeptical. Like overall, I'm not those type of people that negate magic or like supernatural shit, but I don't straight up believe in it either. I'm pretty neutral
Mm.
on this stuff.
So, would you consider yourself a skeptic?
Yeah. I'm skeptic, but I do not like negate stuff. I don't know if that's the right
Yeah.
word in English, but yeah,
Right, right.
right.
You don't ignore the possibility that it exists.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah, because when I look at your art, man, I feel like there's a lot of magic in what you create,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
imagination, a lot of, yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I always tell this to artists, like, I feel like your work comes from a spiritual place.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that's right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely like a component to my work that's a little bit ethereal or like magic like, as you say. And funny enough, like that's like a fun fact. My work it's most often than ripped off or like stolen by accounts on Instagram that does like mystical shit. You know those accounts that post about like not exactly magic, but like astrology and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
dude, they steal my work all the fucking time and post on their Instagram.
No.
Yeah, it's funny, like,
I,
yeah, how there's overall a proximity in some sense of the themes and aesthetics, and probably that's why they steal my shit. But I'm fine with it.
so how do you, yeah, how do you feel about that, man? Like, this kind of, account from that, links itself to your work. How does that make you?
I don't like it that much, especially when it's like religious stuff. I mean, I'm open to everything, like do whatever, right? But I don't like
Yeah.
linking myself to specific religions and stuff, because I'm all for like freedom and all this stuff. So I don't want my art to be linked to a specific one. But other than like religion stuff, I started not caring about people like stealing my shit because I've been on social media for a good part of like 6 or 7 years. So it is bound to happen. Like it happens a lot. So if I were to worry about every single piece of art stolen, like I wouldn't do anything else other than like DMing people and trying to strike channels.
Right, right, right. So after all this time, so you just the only way you found to combat this is just to let it happen and just go with the waves, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. As sad as
there's
it
nothing
is.
much. Yeah. It's a real problem. I think it's it is what it is. Like the Wild West when it comes to art. People just feel like they could come and take it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. It must be difficult sometimes. But in your artwork, right, you portray a very particular star symbol, which seems to be your distinct signature style.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come up with this symbol, and what does it represent in your artwork?
Yeah, so this symbol actually, I started using it after I recreated my logo, right? Because I had a old school fast logo that had some binary code on it because I used to be like a programmer. And then I switched that up. I actually hired an amazing artist called Luden. He's from Amsterdam. He worked with Grimes and all like big names and shit. So
Whoa.
he created my logo. And the only direction that I gave him was I wanted something in the middle that kind of it that functions as the center of everything. So the star symbol started. with that brief. I was like, yeah, Luden, place some shit in the middle that represents the center of everything. And then he used like the star symbol. And then it evolved from there.
Do you feel like when you're creating, it's important to have a center? Do you feel like is it where you start from?
Not exactly. Like I don't start an artwork using that symbol or with the need of using that symbol. It's just something that it's another reinforcer of my style. You know, because when you think about an
Right.
artist's style, there are different components that ties into the style itself. I have my colors. I have the symbols that I usually use. I use a lot of like human shapes and forms, and the star is another like anchor or like reinforcer of the style.
So it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of like your signature. It's kind of like you're leaving your mark behind in your artwork,
Yep, yep.
so you can identify you. That's interesting. Yeah, so I was just gonna ask you because you use a lot of blue and red neon colors in your art.
Hmm.
Why neon and why these colors in particular?
Yeah, okay. So everyone says that this is a cool story, but I use this color specifically because I'm colorblind, right? So
Wow.
yeah. So like I do 3D art, right? And back in the day, I started doing 3D art and posting on Tumblr. So if you check my Tumblr, there are actually 200 artworks back in the day that are not posted on Instagram either. It's only on Tumblr, right? And you
Right.
can see the progression in those artworks that I started using black and white, and then I started using red and blue because red and blue are two colors that I can distinguish pretty well. I'm Dilton colorblind, so I don't see green pretty well. So, because of the nature of 3D art, if you place a red spotlight and a blue spotlight in a 3D scene, the colors mix together and becomes purple, right? So you can see the
Right.
progression in my work of me starting to use red and blue, and over time, the purple becomes a natural element in the artworks as well. So that became a signature because of my color blindness.
Wow. So how did you become an artist? Like, did the fact you were colorblind influence you to become an artist? Like, when did you, how did that happen?
Oh yeah, okay,
You know,
yeah. So let's trace back a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
I never been much of a art artistic person, if that means anything. But back in the day when I was around like 15, 16, I was really into electronic music, right? Really into like DJ shit and like music producing and all that stuff. And so it happens that around 2015, I bumped into an album called Worlds by Porter Robson. He's like a DJ and music producer. And that fucking album changed my life. Like, I never heard anything like that. I pretty much listened that from to back to front for like months and months, and only that. And because of Porter, because I was so obsessed by that album, I used it to look for a lot of remixes online, and there's a specific YouTube channel called Proximity that had a Porter Robinson remix, and I was listening to that song. And usually these YouTube channels that do music, they have like something moving in the middle and like a artwork in the background, right? So the artwork was pretty fascinating, and I looked into the description and I saw artwork by Beeple, right? And I was like, oh, who the fuck is Beeple? So I got into Beeple's website, and I still remember that day. I was like on my iPad listening to Porter Robinson and browsing through hundreds and hundreds of Beeples every day. And every single every day had a hashtag called hashtag Cinema4D. That's the program that Beeples use to create the artworks. So the next day I downloaded that shit and started messing around with that, and that was the spark that kind of pushed me into digital art. So it was Paul Robson with the Worlds album, and then bumping into Beeple's artwork online.
wow. So this is interesting. This is pretty fascinating. So if your color blindness was never a handicap to you, actually, maybe it was even the reason why you started becoming an artist, right?
Hmm.
I mean, tell me about that. Like, yeah, so you never seen it as a negative, right? You kind of use it as a tool to become a better artist, right?
Yeah, I never seen it as a negative because I do not know what it is not to be colorblind. It's one of those things that like if a people is born blind and or born deaf, they do not know what it is not to be deaf or not to be like blind. You know, it's the same shit with color blindness. I don't know what it is to see things right, so it was never like a problem to me. Actually, like it was a problem when I was doing freelance work and the clients asked for really specific colors, and I was having a really hard time to match the colors that they were asking because I didn't see the same shit that they were seeing, right? But other than
Yeah.
that, it was never like a problem to me. It was actually like the reason that I work with these colors is probably the reason that I use a lot of neon and really saturated colors, because color blindness in general, you not only not see specific colors, but overall the color palettes are a little bit muted. So my artworks are like extremely saturated and punchy on purpose because I need to properly see them. And for normal people, they're probably even punchier, if that makes any sense, than what I actually see. You know?
Yeah, that's amazing to me because I love what you do, your style, the execution, and myself as an artist, I try to in some way reproduce what you do because I love the lights, the way it bounces off.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly your work, obviously, but I could never make it look as good as you do it because I feel like you have this superpower over certain artists, where you're like you have a sharper instinct for that, and that's just fascinating to me. That's incredible.
Yeah, appreciate it
Uh,
here.
yeah, man, amazing work. And talking about people, first of all, congratulations,
Yep.
right?
Uh-huh.
How does it
Appreciate
feel,
it.
man?
It feels amazing. Like, 'cause I haven't told you like the whole story, right? So like, Beeple was the guy that like inspired me to get into art, but he was the guy that pushed me into doing this like more professionally, right? Because back in 2019, he actually came down here to Brazil for a conference. So he was on a conference in Sao Paulo, that's a state like near Rio. And Beeple, being the crazy fucking guy that he is, he was like, yeah, fuck it. I will go down to Rio de Janeiro and hang out a little bit. So he promoted like a little event down here in Rio. And I went to that event and I met Beeple in person. And he was like the most humble guy ever. And he like sat down with me for like 30 minutes and we talked about like a lot of shit. And by the end of that night, he challenged me to do 100 days of every days, right? And he said, yeah, Fesq, do 100 days, and after 100 days we can talk again and we can figure it out, the next steps and shit. So I did 100 days because I there was no fucking reason I would say no to people, right? um, so I did 100 days, and after 100 days he called me on Skype. Back in the day, like Zoom wasn't a thing. He called me on Skype and he convinced me to do a full year of every days. So by pushing me to do that shit, I kind of got more traction on social media, and I started getting clients and started getting like more work and more money, and I slowly transitioned into doing art full time because he pushed me to do that shit. So for me to people acknowledge my work and showcase that on like his grand opening, to me is like a big ass full circle moment, right? Because he's basically responsible for most of my entire art career.
That is amazing. And are you still in contact with people? Are you guys on are
Yeah,
you friends?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. The dude, like,
Wow.
I
Wow.
had the pleasure to know him before the millions and millions of dollars and after the millions and millions of dollars, and he's the same fucking person, like, exactly the same person. The same crazy fucking ass guy. You like, every time that you talk to him, you laugh the life out of you because, like, he's funny as shit. But yeah,
That
like, of course he's extremely busy nowadays, so it's you. I cannot like talk to him all the time. But he DM'd me when he saw my submission to like his grand opening. He loved that shit. So yeah, I'm excited to meet him again next week.
that's amazing, man. Because wow, Beeple was one of the reasons I myself got into NFTs.
Yeah.
I remember, when he had that big sale,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Fuck is this? What is this technology?" Amazing, man. And he does look like a pretty fucking funny guy. Like he has no filter.
Not
Amazing.
at all.
Yeah. So in your description for your piece, dissociative environment, you have a description what the piece represents. In the
Yep.
last paragraph, you say, "This new reality is here to stay. It won't be possible to escape the invisible walls that imprison humans inside in the eternal loop of desperation and digital stress. Then again, why would you escape when there's nowhere else to go?" So do you
Yep.
feel at times like your future as a human being, a citizen on planet Earth, has already been determined?
That's a really good question. Like that at work, I actually created that ship a year and a half ago, I believe, for a specific gallery called Zero X Society. And that piece specifically is about like the whole idea for the gallery was to think about how VR and metaverse will affect humanity as a whole. So I went down a more dystopian rabbit hole in which, for me, it is way easier to create a better reality into VR or like virtual reality as a whole than actually save the planet, if that makes any sense, right? So like, why would you want to escape the metaverse if there's nowhere to escape to, right? So that was the whole idea of that piece, and specifically that last paragraph.
That's fascinating. So you, because most people would want to run away from that concept, right? Like they would want to stay here on Earth. But would you say you're more willing to live in the Matrix than live in reality? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know, but then like we are going deep into like more philosophical shit here.
Yeah.
But like, what is reality? Like reality is just the way that you perceive your environment. So if you change the way that you perceive your environment, like then that's a different reality. But it's not more or less than the reality that you see right now, right? If you think about again, deaf people or blind people, they face reality in a totally different way.
Yeah.
So I do not negate new possible ways of seeing reality, but I'm not sure if like I would just shut down the real world and live in the matrix,
Mm.
just yet. But I don't negate the possibility, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah. Because yeah, exactly. The way technology is moving, I mean, who knows what tomorrow's gonna bring, and that's what I saw when when I saw your artwork. That piece I'm talking about, I felt a certain sense of anxiety. I
Yep.
don't know if that was what we were trying to portray,
Exactly what
right?
I was trying.
Yeah, because I'm super anxious all the time. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. In a way, it kind of you visually described what anxiety could feel like.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
is that what you're trying to do? Yeah,
Yeah, well, like the guy shaking inside the VR headset
yeah.
was just about that. Like it is anxiety induced as shit. Because like mostly you don't know what's gonna happen, right? So that was the whole idea to translate in that piece.
As an artist, do you find yourself suffering from anxiety, or are you somebody that's pretty calm and chill?
Oh, dude, all the fucking time, man. Like, if I were to live peacefully, I would have chosen another fucking career path. Because like the
Right.
thing about being an independent artist, there's so much shit you need to get done, especially in the NFT space. It's not only about doing art. You have to doing art. You have to do the marketing. You have to structure a project. You have to there's a whole different type of skill set that you need to acquire to be a successful independent artist that's extremely anxiety inducing. Like I compare myself to some of my friends that are like programmers because I was a programmer before, and they live like a 9 to 5 job, super peaceful lives. Like sometimes their job gets a little bit more stressful and shit, but it's usually, how can I say it? Their life are on the rails, if that makes any sense. Like
Yeah.
there's a common progression to it. My life is fucking batshit crazy. Like I have no fucking clue what's gonna happen 3 months from now. Basically, you know, like this people thing that I'm going like next week. I had no fucking clue that I was going to that shit like a month ago. So I'm just kind of improvising along the way, and that comes with a lot of anxiety overall.
So do you enjoy that part of your life where you don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring? Is that something you know you aspire to, or do you miss the certainty of a 9 to 5 job?
Oh no, no, I love this shit. Like I'm
Yeah.
complaining about anxiety, but I love this shit. Like I could not, I could not live on a 9 to 5 job
Oh man,
whatsoever. Like that shit is so crushing. I
that's
mean,
the
it
worst.
really depends. Like I worked 9 to 5 jobs before, but I had other shit on the side. You know, I had Fesq on the side. I was a programmer working 9 to 5, but like when I got home, the end of the day, I was working on Fesq. So I had some other shit to look after and not just the 9 to 5. And the same token that I kind of envy my friends that I have a more peaceful life, they're all bored all the fucking time. Like they finish their job, they just like play Call of Duty for a little bit, and they just like drink wine and just like complain about life. That's like their whole shit. So like I feel that the unpredict sorry, this word is a little bit hard. The unpredictability, I don't know if that's right, of my life kind of gives a freshness to it that even though it brings anxiety, I kind of love this shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I totally understand that. Were you did you have a hard time keeping jobs that you had that were 9 to 5? Was that difficult for you?
No, not at all, because like I had the 9 to 5 and I had Fast on the side, so like it
Okay.
wasn't hard to me to work 9 to 5. It was just like part of the process, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. But I could never do just the 9 to 5 and not do anything else. I need something more, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you have the feeling that you need to create.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's interesting. So I read a lot of your descriptions of your artwork, and I wanted to ask you, would you consider the words you use for your description as art in themselves?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Like, and this is something that has been changing a little bit most recently because I always read and shit. Like when I create the artworks, I usually write down a few words or a few phrases about the artwork. But then like English is not my native language. Like I can handle myself pretty well with English, but it's
Mm,
not like I can speak, but when it comes to writing, I make a lot of fucking mistakes. I look like a fucking fifth grade writing shit, you know. It's pretty terrible. So it's been changing right now because with AI and chat gpt and all this stuff, I can use the the words and phrases as a source material to the AI to help me out writing a proper text, if you know what I mean, right?
right.
So to me, like it's a new thing that I'm loving to do as AI is unlocking me the possibility to properly articulate the ideas that I couldn't do before.
So this might be an obvious question, but which side are you on when it comes to AI? Are you for? Are you against?
Yeah, that's a hard question. Like, there's a lot of problems with AI when it comes to AI art. When it comes to like the copyright stuff, they're basically abusing the system when it comes to creating these AIs. But I'm not against AI either. Like, I know there are problems when it comes to copyright, and like there's a lot of artists that are being pretty much abused by it. But then like it is a, we are on a point of no return. There's no way of fixing this shit, in my opinion. I see a more dystopian future in which like it will be pretty much a fuck fest. But I'm on the side that AI is just a tool, right? Pretty much just like ChatGPT. Like you can write pretty much meaningless shit with ChatGPT, but the way that I'm using it, I'm creating my source material and just using the AI to fix the grammar and like fix the syntax of my phrases. So it's not like I'm using that shit for a soulless purpose, if that makes any
Right,
sense.
right,
So it's
yeah,
just a tool. You know, it's just a
right,
tool, and to me, like the people that learn to use the tools will pretty much uh how can I say it, go in the front or like have a head start, if that makes any sense.
right. No, that makes sense. Do you, as an artist that's pretty established, are you ever scared that the AI is gonna choose you to use to make some of its work? Is that something
Oh,
you're
you
scared of?
did? No, not at all. Like I was actually pretty sad because I recently searched some of the databases that these AIs are using, and I couldn't find my work. That was pretty sad. I was expecting that I was relevant enough for the AI to scrape my work, but I'm not. Apparently, I'm not.
For
I have
now.
more work to do to the AI for for them to copy me.
So you take it more as a sign of success if the AI took some of your work and involved it in itself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's pretty fucked up, right? Because I mean, they are stealing the work, but like, if the AI is scraping your shit, you're probably relevant enough in the cosmos of the internet for the AI to find you. And apparently, I'm not still. But yeah, like I'm not afraid of AI like taking my work, right?
Right.
Because I think that there's a lot more to me as an artist than just the aesthetic. It comes with the message. It comes with like the creativity of constructing projects, um, and not just the aesthetic, right? So I'm not that worried about it.
You feel like you will always be the one of one, right? There will always be one Fesq. You're not feeling
Yeah,
threatened by it at all.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah. Even in a like, commercial context, so like when it comes to doing like commercial projects, and I've done a handful of those, there's a lot more to the project itself than just like creating the artwork, you know? So, and that's something that AI in the current state cannot articulate and cannot properly think, if that makes any sense,
right.
uh, to create something better than I would.
Yeah, because when I look at your art, man, I feel like there's a certain spirit inside of it that a robot doesn't have.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. There's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of, like we were just saying, magic. And I don't know if a robot would be able to reproduce that correctly without
Hmm.
falling into the uncanny valley where you're like, this doesn't seem human.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are pretty good AI art out there, but I figure like the best AI artists use the AI just as a tool, and they build
That
on top of that. Those for me are the best. There's a guy, I forgot his name right now. His work is fucking incredible. It's oh, I will look it up right now. But yeah, to me, he's the prime example of someone that uses this in a good way.
yeah, like I recently had a friend of mine that I interviewed. His name, he goes by Delta Sauce, and he uses AI, but just like he said, he uses it like you said, you use it, he uses it as a tool. There's
Yeah,
still a human aspect to it, which makes it great.
yeah. I know Delta. Delta's a pretty good, pretty nice guy.
Yeah, you know him. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a great AI artist. Um, in your piece, A Tour Around My Failures, you use human skulls as the principal subjects of the piece. Why did you choose to tie failure and death together?
That's a really good question. It wasn't actually meant to be death, you know, but I wanted something that symbolizes failure, and I couldn't, because failure as a whole is a pretty abstract. Like, how do you fucking
Right.
visually translate failure? So, like, to me, skulls were a pretty good symbol that kind of ties a little bit to it, but it was not necessarily meaning death, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because what I found interesting, it brought me back to this quote that I heard that everybody wants to make it to heaven, but nobody wants to die to get there. Right.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe, it represents like the death of a dream or the death of hope, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. That's a better interpretation than my yeah.
So do you ever like when you're creating, do you think about the message you're sending out or are you just going with the flow?
Oh man, it really depends. Like if you contrast two different artworks that I done recently, like there's recursion and there's like a tour around my failures. Both of them like had pretty different process, in which like recursion, I knew the idea, I knew the concept, I knew exactly what I wanted to execute, and my drafts look pretty similar to the final piece. When it comes to the tour around my failures, I started the artwork with the idea of bashing together skulls and going from there. Like I had no fucking clue that I wanted to portray that exact concept, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So I tied together the schools, and after that I was like, okay, let's try to give this art more scale. So I added like the tiny little humans. I was like, okay, so it feels like the tiny little human could be looking at the skull. So why the humans are looking at the skulls? So the concept started developing itself, and then the stairs going around the skulls, and the red little human comparing with the blue little humans inside the skulls, and the concept went from there. So the process is a little bit different. Sometimes I had the concept before the artwork, and sometimes it develops alongside it.
Mm. Because when I looked at the art and I really like the piece, I really studied it. I found interesting that you place trees,
Yeah,
and I thought, was that subconscious or were you conscious when you're doing that? Because it's a direct, almost a direct contradiction between death and life, right? When you think
yeah,
about trees.
that was conscious, buddy. That was conscious. If you
Okay.
if you see, actually, like, you like to study this shit. If you look at the little humans that are inside the skulls, as you progress upwards in the composition, they start to have poses that are more open. Like, so the humans in the bottom are pretty reclusive. They're like, they're looking to the other human in red a little bit more cautiously. The ones that are closer to the eyes, they're pointing downwards, they're waving. So it's like the progress towards acceptance, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So at first you do not want to accept your failures, but as you progress upwards in the composition, you embrace them and you kind of go upwards, that ties with the description, like, once enemies, now friends. You're embracing your failures, and now they're becoming your friend.
So I'm talking from memory now, but I believe when I think about back in the piece, I remember I think I saw one of the humans being lifted up into the sky. Is that right?
Yeah, that right.
So that would be like the final acceptance of
Yeah,
failure. Like
exactly.
fascinating.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's um. So this question might be a little odd, but I want to ask you anyway. How do you feel about the idea of dying?
But you probably covered the microphone with your hand. I don't know. You're
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Now it's fine.
I think I got a call. Somebody must have called me. Apologies.
Yeah, no worries.
Uh, so I was saying, how do you feel about the idea of dying?
Oh man, that question in itself is a lot anxiety inducing. But fuck it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, the thing that I'm not worried about death in itself, but there's so much shit that I want to get done, that I want to do still, that the anxiety comes from not being able to do all the shit that I want to do, you know?
Mm.
But death itself, uh, after it, there's no nothing to worry about, if that makes any sense, you know?
So yeah. So you feel the idea of dying for you is okay. You don't feel
Yeah, but I want to finish what I want to,
yeah.
I want to do the shit that I want to do before dying, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting because it ties back to me at least when I hear you talking. It ties back to the concept of a 9 to 5. It kind of like I feel like you're saying I'm okay with dying as long as I get everything done and I don't waste
Yeah,
my life doing something I don't want to do, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because when I look at your art, the reason I'm asking you this is I wonder, do you believe in an afterlife? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that I do not uh, reject it, but I do not believe in that either. I think that there's a lot of shit that we cannot explain. But I'm not sure if we cannot explain this shit because we don't have enough knowledge to explain it, or if there are shit that there is like inherently supernatural and we cannot explain it. Does it make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that totally makes sense. I'm gonna
Yeah.
stop make you feel uncomfortable because that question is
For fuck's
fucking
sake.
weird. So I'm gonna move on. Your collection on OpenSea is called Pieces of Me. Do
Yeah.
you feel like you give pieces of yourself in order to create your work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the type of work that I want to do, and this is something that actually bothers me a lot in the NFT space because currently you have a lot of the meta for artists is it's a little bit like fucked up, if that makes any sense. Like you gotta be making work every single day, you gotta be putting out new shit, and like you gotta do airdrops, and then you gotta do bidders edition and all that shit, so you keep your momentum, right? But
Right,
that ends up producing a lot of mass produced art. Like I'm not pointing names, but like some big names in this space just do the same shit over and over and over and over and over again. And I feel that that ends up a little bit soulless over time, if that makes any sense. So when it comes to my artworks, I take a little bit more time because I want the pieces that I mint to mean something. Like mint something on the blockchain, you're kind of recording this shit forever, right? So I really want to mean it, if that makes sense. I have a lot of artworks, but I've done more than 1,000 artworks over time. But
wow,
I minted around 40 of them, you know,
right.
because the ones that I mint, I really want to mean something with it.
Yeah, so when you're minting, you're really careful about what you put out. Is that you like you
Yeah.
curate? Yeah, are you scared of flooding your market?
Yeah, I'm not flooding the market. Like supply and demand is a really important shit that we need to be careful in the NFT space. But I'm not worried about flooding it. I'm worrying about minting with intention, like shit that I'm proud to mint. You know, the last thing that I want is to look back on my like OpenSea history and see a bunch of artworks that I minted just for the sake of minting, because I don't like that. You know.
Right, right. I think sometimes collectors as well, they like to see, people that are putting their best work out there, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the tough part of being in the NFT world. You kind of you have to kind of look like you know what you're doing sometimes, and
Yeah.
like yeah, totally. I thought that was a really interesting title. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you about that. So, what would be your definition of beauty?
Definition of beauty. I don't know. I think that true beauty is a little bit hard to explain, right? You can pick apart some aspects of it. You know, when you look at something that you like, you can kind of distinguish a little bit why you like it, but it's the sum of multiple little aspects that are kind of hard to describe, if that makes sense,
Mm,
right?
yeah. Like, yeah, and I mean, it's a tough question to answer,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, because I feel like when I look at your art, I feel like there's a certain beauty that comes out of it, a certain because and when we see death, we also see life, and in life there's beauty. That's what I got
Hmm.
from when I talk about when I saw your trees.
Yeah,
So yeah, really interesting. So
yeah.
you had an amazing opportunity to work with Nissan and
Hmm.
collaborate with them on an NFT project for people who purchase the limited edition cars. Obviously, this was an amazing win, an amazing trophy, and amazing everything. But do you ever feel like the pressure that your next achievement has to top your last one?
I'm not sure. Like, I don't see the artist's career as linear by any means. And if you think about it, like achievements are different, like different aspects. Yeah, I collabed with Nissan. I released a fucking car. That's a lot, you know. But if you think about different like achievements, they do not need to compare with the other one, right? So to me, like for example, the Beeple exhibition that I'm going next week, like to me that has a personal weight that Nissan doesn't have, right? So
Mm,
there are different achievements that hit different sides of me, and career wise, I don't think that we should be comparing those.
mm. How was your experience working with such big corporate brand? Like,
Oh
what do
man,
you?
it is crazy, crazy as shit. Like, dude, it happens so fast. Like when it comes to big brands like that, they move they are slow when it comes to preparing shit, but when it comes to execution, it's pretty fucking fast. So what happens is Nissan kind of pitched the project to a different like production houses, and the production houses kind of like battle themselves to see which one will win the project. And as soon as so I was reached out by five different production houses. Each of them had like different proposals for me for the project, and I was pretty much confused because I didn't know that's the pipeline that big brands follow. It's always like they're like a big brand like Nissan, Nike. They pitch a project to a different set of like productions, and they kind of find a way to execute it. So I was pretty confused because I thought it was a scam. Like everything in the NFT space is a scam for most of the part. So I was like receiving a bunch of different emails claiming to be Nissan, trying to hire me to some shit. And I was like, yeah, they're probably sending me like some virus, you know?
Oh
So
shit!
yeah.
Wow,
So it took me a little while to get into a call with a production house called Original Films, or fuck, I forgot the name. They're from Uruguay down here in South America. So I got into a call with them, and they started like explaining the project. Was like, yeah, this shit is real. It's not fucking scam. And well, they contact me with John Sanz, that's the head designer for Nissan in South America, and I was like, yeah, I'm talking with the head designer of Nissan. This shit is real, you know. So and then like in a matter of 2 days, they flew me down to Uruguay to record the commercial. It was pretty hectic. You know, the whole project finished in around 2 weeks. I went down to Uruguay, and that this shit was like, dude, I felt like a little superstar because they paid for all the shit, like the fucking plane, the fucking VIP service from the airport to the hotels, a nice ass fucking hotel. Never stayed in such a nice place. But yeah, like the whole project was done in 2 weeks, and they released the car a few months later. It all sold out, so it was pretty cool.
amazing.
And yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
but it came out of fucking nowhere.
How does it? How
Literally.
does it feel, man? Like to go from this like artist just doing your thing to being in the room with Nissan, like the directors, and how does it feel, man?
It is cool, but it feels a little bit surreal at the moment, you know? Because you're like, what the fuck is going on? It's the same shit when, like, it's the same shit with meeting people, you know, back in the day. So, like, people inspired me that shit. I never thought I would meet the guy, and there I was, like, drinking a beer with the guy. So, at the moment, it really feels extremely surreal. But when after it, when you stop to think about it, it's like I don't know. It's hard to process, you know,
Yeah,
but it's cool.
it feels like it it feels like a bit of a blur. Like I think I was talking about this the other day, right? It feels like do you think you have a hard time being in the moment?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that ties with the anxiety shit. Like it is really hard to be present in the moment, right? And especially when it comes to these big projects, there are always so much shit going on at the same time that it's really hard to focus and like soak in the moment, you know?
Yeah, I totally understand. I mean, I've never lived some crazy shit like that, but I could totally imagine what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, as an artist, do you feel a constant pressure to create art even when you don't necessarily want to?
Um, yes and no. Like, cause as I mentioned before, there are a lot of different things that comes with being like an independent artist. So I don't feel the pressure to create art, but I feel the pressure to work. You know. So if I'm
Yeah.
not creating art, I'm working on other shit. I'm doing taxes. I'm fucking doing management shit. I'm talking with lawyers, and it's a lot of shit. You know. So I don't feel the pressure to do art on itself, but I do feel the pressure to work every day, all the time.
Wow. Yeah, totally. So, I got one last question for you. If you could walk right into one of the portals you created in your artwork, where would you find yourself?
That's hard. Uh, Portals, which artwork I will find myself in? Well, I will probably choose an artwork that it's not fully done yet, and that's yeah. I cannot say much, but like let's just say that I'm working on my own little environment. right? Let's
Right.
just leave it at that. So I would choose that place because that place will be fully 3D, fully interactable, and all that stuff. So it will probably be the best place to pour all myself in.
Awesome. Absolutely amazing. Fesq, thank you so much, man. How are you for time? Do you have time for a question real quick from the audience?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Bring someone up. I
No,
have a
Sev
10 minutes or so.
Sev
That's fine.
requested. All right, let's bring him up. Maybe he has a question. Hey Sev, how are you? You there, buddy?
Yo,
Yeah,
oh,
he's
hello,
connecting.
hello. I am there. I'm here. Thank you, Rodeo, for accepting. Hello, Fesq. Hello, Rodeo. I know
What's
it's
up? What's up?
pretty
Welcome.
was good. I'm a car designer, by the way. Um, I just wanted to ask Fesq. So, was the structure for the commission for the work for the artwork, the project you did for Nissan? Was it structured under Nissan directly, or were you indeed actually commissioned by a third party, such as like an agency, as you mentioned before, that reached you, and you did that as part like of a three-party arrangement to fulfill the project for Nissan?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. It wasn't directly with Nissan. Like as I explained
Okay.
before, like Nissan hires a bunch of like different agencies and production houses. So I was working with two different companies. There was Origin Films, that's the production house from Uruguay, and there's another agency from Argentina. My contract was directly I had two contracts. I had a contract for the execution of the artwork that was directly with the agency in Argentina, and I had another contract with the production house that filmed my commercial, right? Because those were two different contracts. The one that kind of uh, I signed off the allowance to use my image and all that shit, and the other one was pretty much a freelance project. But it wasn't directly with Nissan. That doesn't happen. It is you're always third party.
Oh, that is so interesting. Thank you for answering the question. And without mentioning numbers, were you happy with the commission and what you were paid?
I was yeah. That was my first experience working with like big companies like that. So in hindsight, I was paid well, like for the amount of work that I put in, and like flying down to Uruguay with all expenses paid and shit. It was good money. But then after I arrived in Uruguay and I saw the big ass fucking production to film a fucking commercial, I was like, yeah, these fuckers are spending like millions and millions of dollars. They should have paid me more, you know. But I was happy with the payment. It was fine.
Oh, amazing. This actually changed your mind when you saw like the allocated capital to actually just film you. Okay, that's amazing. Fisk, thank you for answering the question. It's so rare that you get like access to ask an artist that does like professional projects like this. So congratulations. I'm happy for you, and I follow you everywhere. By the way, I'm a big fan of your art, and congrats on the people. I don't know what to call it, collaboration or hosted by like people. And yeah, thank you, and have a good night. I guess. Thank you, Rodeo. Thank you for
Yeah,
No
for
hosting,
sure.
problem.
and
For sure.
yeah.
I try to be as accessible as possible. So if you have any questions, drop me a DM. The worst that can happen is I ignore it, but not because I want to ignore it. It's just because it's a lot of shit happening all the time.
Oh, yeah, I
But I'm
appreciate.
happy to answer any questions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
you're
almost didn't
awesome.
answer my DM, man. I had to like go like, yo, Fesq, check your fucking DMs, man. I'm trying to.
Thank you,
Mother
guys.
is
Thank
my
you.
cup,
No
and my
For
problem.
sure,
Thanks
glass
for
for
is
sure.
coming up.
fogging up. Oh
Thanks
yeah, hey
for
dog,
coming
hey
up,
what's
guys.
up?
Really, this
Oh
was
yeah, hey
awesome.
dog, hey, what's up?
Yeah,
And the
absolutely, man.
sweaty walls are banging. I don't fuck with family planning. Make it rain, girl, make it rain. Make it rain, girl, make it rain. Make it rain, girl, make